Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will. What a first week of NFL football. We'll talk about that as well as week 2 of college football and looking ahead to week 3 of college football and week 2 of the NFL. And something different happened this past week compared to last year. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But first, please be sure to share, subscribe, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. I want to give a shout out to Hard Rock Bet for sponsoring today's episode. If you don't have a Hard Rock Bet account, you can find it in the link of the description. And I must say, last week was a better week for me with Hard Rock Bet. So made a little money last week versus the week before. I paid a little bit. But how you doing, my friend? Happy Fanatic Friday.
Happy Friday, everybody. Hello, Will. How you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. I am feeling good about a lot of different things, but I think we can get one thing out of the way. I was on record last week of saying, Oklahoma State, I think they might keep it kind of close with Oregon. Yeesh. They got waxed on that one, but Iowa did keep it close, but they still lost to Iowa State. But how about you? What were some of your thoughts about the college football week 2? Not a lot of huge matchups, but
No,
nevertheless.
I made sure to continue to watch football, even though I'm here in World America MSC for a week of learning. But I made sure to go to the sport bar for most of Saturday and all day Sunday, so I was able to to see everything I need, watch every game, so I can report about my my statement of the weekend for football. But on me, it's more about redemption week. So who had a redemption week? Well, my Longhorn. Of course, they play nobody. I know. They had a very sloppy start. I know. But then when the machines start running, it start getting a lot better. So I'm not throwing any conclusion on it, but I'm very pleased with the way majority of the game. The second is Alabama. Alabama, they literally didn't take a play off. They were playing all in hardcore. I think it's 70-0 if I remember the end score, but it was pretty convincing. And then you have a couple. I mean, first of all, Iowa State 3-0. That's the first 3-0 team of the season. Impressive. I have to say a word about Utah. That's my preseason Big 12 pick. They are 2-0, and they were unranked. No, they were 25. No, I think they ranked 19 or something. So they grow. So I'm very pleased with that. But let's talk about teams that have a very sloppy start, even though they won. The game 2 is Clemson. Clemson, wow. I mean, Dabo, back-to-back year, very, very difficult start, even though they are way better this year than they should be. I mean, they would have been last year. So Clemson is really, I think the game 3, they really need to make a huge switch or it's going to be a problem. Florida, who are going into a deadly stretch. I mean, Florida, their schedule, let's be honest, is the worst or the toughest schedule I ever saw. Literally. It's insane, their schedule of Florida. Now they go at LSU, then they play the U, then they play Longhorns. So, I don't know. And then they play later on this year against Georgia, Alabama. I mean, what a schedule they have. So, it's going to be interesting. But who beat them? USF, who beat back-to-back ranked team, Boise State and Florida at Florida. Next week, I mean, tomorrow's game, they play against the U. That's going to be a very, interesting Florida game that no one expected 3 weeks ago to happen. So those are my findings based on the second week.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And just one thing I want to clarify for our winners. When Nick says he's on a learning cruise, he's learning to know, is his capacity 4 shots or 3 before he starts taking a nap. So, let's be clear about that. But yeah, you actually do have a good capacity. I must give you that credit. So, but yeah, last week there was only one ranked matchup, which was Oklahoma and Michigan. Looks like that Michigan quarterback needs a little maturing to do. Was barking at his teammates on the sideline. That's never a good look when things like that. But yeah, USF, and that is one of I think four ranked matchups in Week 3. So why don't we talk a little bit about that? USF Miami. Miami's ranked fifth. South Florida, like you just mentioned, beat two ranked teams back to back. They're now ranked 18. Miami's favored by 17 and a half. Seems like a pretty healthy spread. I know they're playing in Miami, but I'm a little bit tempted to take Florida in the point or South Florida. I don't think they'll win, but I think they may cover. What's your thoughts?
I agree. I agree. I don't see them winning at Miami, but I can definitely see that being a very close game. And in the fourth, Miami pulled away. That's how I would think it would happen. But USF have veteran players, that great
Hmm.
transfer. That it's a kind of team with transfer from low level D1 a high level D2, and those players are hungry. That's literally players who feel like they've been disrespected their entire career, and now they have 1 year left, and they all go to USF to prove it. They're running back, impressive. I
Hmm.
mean, defensively, they were aggressive. So I, I'm not picking them to upset the U like you, but I'm predicting that to be very close.
Yeah, I do too. And then you have Notre Dame, coming off their opening loss to the U, hosting Texas A&M, who won but didn't look impressive winning at home against last week. But how do you see that game?
Two touchdown win by Notre Dame. They need to turn their corner. They just lost the first game. Knowing Coach Freeman, now they had probably 10, 12 game days of training, intensive training to prepare them for the second game. Like you said, A&M won without being very by showing a lot. So I think that they're gonna be very, if again, our sponsor Hard Rock Bet. I would bet on this one the first half. I would bet the first half Notre Dame strongly. I think they will come out, even the first quarter, they will come out aggressive against A&M. And that's my prediction.
Well, Notre Dame is favored by 6.5, my friend. So I think you may have a bet on Hard Rock Bet if you're thinking they're going to win by two touchdowns. That should be in one of your mixes. Other ranked matchup is, sorry, let me scroll up here. Georgia and Tennessee. Georgia number 6,
Mm.
2-0. Tennessee number 15, 2-0. Playing in Tennessee. Georgia favored by 3.5. How do you see that one?
Yeah, Georgia unimpressive right now, but it means very little to me because they didn't play anybody. So I
Yeah.
think that Georgia are known to be very well prepared by Coach uh, Kirby Smith.
Yeah.
And I think they're gonna be ready for this one. So I have Georgia winning against Tennessee. But I think it's gonna be a good game. Very, intensive SEC kind of game.
Yeah, I think so. Same reason. I think Georgia takes care of business. And so that is all the ranks. So let's just do a quick bonus one. LSU in Florida. Florida travels to LSU. LSU favored by 9.5.
Well, you always have to count that Florida will play way better because they thought it's going to be a walk in the beach, like literally against USF, and then they were surprised. Here, they will not be surprised at the Dead Valley. They know they need to be prepared. So I expect Florida to play way better. So I think we need to avoid having like thinking that it's going to be like a blowout. If it is, then Florida's season is out because they will play against the U and Texas back to back after that. But I think it's going to be also a very classic SEC battle. But LSU pull up in the fourth. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think LSU stomps them. I think
Ooh, here we go.
yeah, I mean when you have the pitchforks are out on the Florida coach. So I totally agree with you. They should play better. I just think LSU that if it was in Florida, I would give Florida more of a chance. But playing in LSU, Brian Kelly also on a little bit of a hot seat, even though they started off well. I mean, from a carryover last year, I think he's going to have them foaming at the mouth. I think LSU romps on Florida, and I think Napier may not finish the year. But I
Hey,
hope
you
I'm
saw,
wrong
yeah.
for the Gator fans. But
I don't know if you heard, but the big rumor that I saw in three different outlets that a couple of days after the game they lost was that Gruden. Gruden was number one on the list of Florida Gators. So they already apparently they have some rumors that they're talking to Gruden, John Gruden. So that would be a
I would love
big.
to see Dick back in coaching. I'm actually following him on Barstool. So Barstool hired him about 6 months ago, and he's been doing all the stuff like the quarterback breakdowns and all that stuff.
He's
So I've been
amazing for
following
that.
him.
Yeah.
He lives in Tampa, so I mean Gainesville isn't that far away. He wouldn't even have to
No,
sell his house. He could have a second home in Gainesville for during the year or whatever. I would like to see him coach again. The other thing is real quickly, Wisconsin travels to Alabama. Um, I'm not expecting Wisconsin to win. Alabama's favored by 20 and a half, but I'm on record of saying I don't think this coach is going to make the year for Alabama, so expect Wisconsin to cover. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I do think Bucky loses by less than 3 touchdowns. So that's my take on that one. Any other thoughts about college? Texas has what, UTEP or somebody like it's going to be a walk in the park. But any other college thoughts before we pivot to the
we'll see.
NFL?
No,
Yeah,
no, no, they don't. Yeah, keep an eye on Utah. That's all. They play Wyoming. I think. I believe that they're
yeah,
gonna win
at
that game
Wyoming.
and be like this. They will start talking a lot more about it. And let's. I mean, I'm a Longhorns fan, so I hate to talk about the Sooners, but let's give them credit beating my Michigan the way they did. Let's see what if they can continue playing that way.
I hear you. I hear you. So now let's pivot to the NFL. I think the one, we talk about this like by the time our winners are listening to us on Friday, they're not necessarily thinking of week 1 games, but I would be remiss if we didn't spend time talking about that Buffalo Baltimore game. Just for the record for our winners, I will own the shame. It was about 5 minutes left in the fourth. Buffalo just had to punt, and this was right after King Henry just ran for another gazillion yards and scored a touchdown. And I went to bed. And I wake up, and the first thing I do is I see my phone, and my buddy texts me, "What a game." I'm like, "Oh no." And then I pulled up the ESPN app and saw that Buffalo somehow won 41-40 when they were down 40-25 with 5 minutes left in the fourth. Of course, I got caught up on everything. I watched the highlights, but not the same as watching it live. See my co-host, my friend, posting this flowing thing about Josh Allen, which he never does. And then of course I was watching all the sports talk radio to get caught up on everything. But I was like, what a game. We have to at least talk a little bit about it, but I will give you the floor because you've been very vocal about your stance about Baltimore and Lamar Jackson and just as vocal about your stance on Josh Allen. So the floor is yours, my friend. What did you see?
Yes. So yeah, I totally agree. It for me, I even posted it's probably the game of the year, and it's only week one. So it says a lot. And I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. Nothing to be ashamed, brother. I literally was yeah. So I'm on the ship. So there was like silent disco on the promenade thing next to the sport bar. So I had my promenade, my silent disco headset on, and my head was literally like this with a big TV next to me, and I was watching the game while listening to the silent disco and seeing all the
Was
people
you in the
like dancing.
Macarena?
Yeah, no, it was Latino thing, so it was loud. Anyway,
Oh,
so I was watching the game. I couldn't stop watching, and like you, 40-25, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna back up in the room, So I go in the room, I turn on the TV, and I see Buffalo being at the 1 yard line, like still 40-25. And I'm like, oh. And then they score, and then we know they score second time, missed the 2-point field goal. Then King Henry fumble, which never happens. And then they go for the field goal. I mean, again, Alexander just making that stop for the guy to run for the touchdown helps Buffalo tremendously, because if they score, they give Lamar and the crew another 30 seconds to potentially score a touchdown to win. So actually, when he slip and he, like Zaire Alexander, like tackle the guy with one hand, I'm like, that's such a mistake. And then the commentator said like 5 seconds later, that is a mistake. Let him run. So it was interesting, but the poise of Josh Allen, this guy, he has literally ice in his veins. Like it's incredible. And the whole game, you could see he's frustrated, but he stay poised, like for his team.
Hmm.
And I love that. That's the kind of player you want to go to war with. I mean, that's incredible. And of course, it's not him alone. You know, his team had to play. Cook had to play a great game. Like his wide receiver, tandem, always wide receiver that are not very famous, that comes out of nowhere with Josh, which shows again that he's pretty fantastic. And and about Lamar, like you mentioned, it's not that he's a bad quarterback. He's great. The problem for me is not a winner. And people, I read the day after all over internet. It's not Lamar's fault. It's never Lamar's fault. The difference is that Josh Allen, he plays best games when they need him to play his best games. Lamar, he play always the same freaking way. And next week he's probably gonna have 400 yards and 150 yards rushing against what they play. I don't know who they play, but he's probably gonna have a huge game against nobody. And that's how his numbers get inflated. So he played a good game yesterday, you know, but he didn't elevate his game when they needed him to elevate his game. And that's my problem with Jackson. He was not successful. He didn't help his team win at Louisville, and he never helped his team win at Buffalo at Baltimore when the time is right. I don't believe in Baltimore because of him. And it's not to say that he's bad. It's just that he's not elevate his game when they need him to.
Yeah, there's certain players that just have that extra gear, and Josh Allen is that guy. So here's two fun facts about Josh Allen that I heard. So first, he threw for what was it, almost 270 yards in the fourth quarter. He
In the
threw
fourth,
more. He threw more yards in the fourth quarter than 17 starting NFL quarterbacks did the entire game in week one. Second thing, to your point about being a winner, even though the Buffalo hasn't won a Super Bowl yet, but you can definitely see Baltimore's roster is better than Buffalo's roster, top to down. But Josh Allen is crazy. Josh Allen, his quarterback rating is actually higher in the playoffs than it is in the regular season. So to your point about rising when it matters and rising against top up competition in the playoffs, you're not playing cakewalks. You're playing legitimate, solid to great to extraordinary teams. And his quarterback rating is higher in the playoffs than is the regular season. I went on record as saying I think Buffalo will be the number one seed. I also went on record saying I don't see them getting to the championship game because I think Baltimore will be a lower seed. But these two teams, their games are memorable. I mean, when they play each other,
yeah.
buckle up. You're going to see a heck of a game, and it's going to come down to just a couple plays. If Henry doesn't fumble, Baltimore wins. If Jair Alexander, Jair, he doesn't make that tackle, maybe Baltimore has time to score a touchdown. You'll never know. But just like last year, Mark Andrews drops that 2-point conversion and Baltimore gets kicked out of these teams when they play each other, you're going to see fantastic football, and it's going to be one or two plays that makes all the difference in the outcome of the game. Just an amazing game, and I regret not seeing the last 5 minutes, but pays to stay to the end. Like Josh Allen said, we play 60 minutes. He's right. I should have had more faith.
And you're not the only one. 25% of the stadium were gone. You know, you see everybody leaving, like Miami against San Antonio when Ray Allen shoot the three in the corner.
Yeah, yeah.
It was the same thing. You saw everybody leaving, and it makes sense. You don't want to be 2 hours traffic in the parking lot after the game, but now they missed it. They just could follow it on the radio in the car.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But heck of a game, week one. A lot of interesting outcomes. And again, some of them you take with a grain of salt because it's week one. Some of them are a little eye opening. So as you look ahead to this week, so you made a comment about Baltimore. The thing that's kind of interesting, you know who they play next? It's at home in Baltimore, but they play Cleveland, and Cleveland held Cincinnati to 7 total yards in the second half. I mean,
One
when
of
you
the
think of
big
Joe
surprise.
Burrow and Jamar Chase and Chase Brown and T. Higgins, 7 yards in the second half, I don't know. So I'm just kind of curious. Do you see Lamar going for 400 against the Browns, or do you think the Browns defense is legit?
No, I think they need to go off in the second game. They cannot have a second game. And knowing a little bit the way our ball coach, after a loss, they usually destroy the next one. And I think Cleveland, I mean, that was one of the surprise for me in the first game. I was expecting 43-28 kind of game. And no, they could hold it. But how many times you will have T. Higgins and Chase 5 catches and what, like 70 yards the whole game? I don't think it's gonna happen ever again. So yeah, credit to Cleveland, but Cleveland should have win that game. If they have a kicker, they won. So
Oh yeah,
that's just
you can say the same
that's
for
just
Atlanta. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's for me. And I mean, again, they should have lose like they always do the first game of the season, Cincinnati. But no, they won, and I think that's the win. They will catapult. They will put them in the playoffs because I think that they always lost the first 1 or 2 games, and that's what always the difference between making it or not making it. No, they win a game, they should have lose. I think that may be an indicator that this year is really Cincinnati Bengals game year. No, defensively they also played better than we thought. They had interception, some tackles, some sacks that were pretty good. So again, they play Cleveland, so they don't play Baltimore or either. I think I still believe that next week Baltimore is gonna show up and destroy Cleveland. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's gonna
Well,
happen.
Vegas agrees with you. They got Baltimore's 12.5 point favorites, which is that's a big spread. You mentioned the Bengals. Interesting matchup coming up. You got Jaguars at Cincinnati. Cincinnati favored by 3.5, which means on a neutral site, Vegas views these guys as a pick 'em. How do you see that game going?
Yeah, I think Cincinnati wins, but I really like the way that Jacksonville played. They played nobody, but I really like the way they played. And again, a young team usually with a new coach needs confidence. And they got that confidence with the week one win. And who knows? But I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I don't think that Cincinnati will struggle again a second week in a row. Like I said, same as Baltimore. I think they're going to score at least 35 points. And Jacksonville probably in the 20s. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cincinnati, I can't see them being held under 20 points again, and I don't see the Jaguars scoring more than 30. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. All right, the big game next week. Well, one of the big games. Eagles at Chiefs. Those who follow us on Two for the Win know our stance about the Chiefs. Chiefs coming off that loss to Chargers, as you predicted. We'll get to more on that later. And the Eagles, not dominant against the Cowboys. They still won, but they weren't dominant. Interesting matchup of the repeat Super Bowl matchup where the Eagles throttled the Chiefs, but this time they're playing in Arrowhead. Vegas has Philadelphia as a 1.5 favorite, which means if they were playing in the in the Eagles, they'd be 4.5 favorite. But how do you see this game playing out?
Well, it's not the upset pick section, but that's my first upset pick. So I really have the Chiefs winning against the Eagles. I still don't believe that I still believe that the Chiefs will underperform this year, potentially not even making the playoffs. That was my take before the season started, before the first game. But I do believe, knowing Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, and all the crew, they know that if they lose at home against the Eagles game two and start 0-2, they know it's going to be a very hard because they just play about against the Charger, who are a divisional team. They know what they are capable of doing. Denver struggled but won the first game. they know they need to win that game. You know, they know that they need to. So I think the motivation with everything else. I know they're flying all the way from Brazil, so it's taking consideration as well. But I do believe they will be prepared to win the game. Now, you have a good point. The Eagles didn't perform, or they should have performed against the Cowboys. So they also have a chip on their shoulder. But I do believe since the game is in Kansas City, I would pick Kansas City for an upset against the Eagles.
All right, so there you have it, folks, with upset picks. Nick already talking about his first upset pick, picking the Chiefs over the Eagles. Um, I'm glad you picked that because I would think the Eagles win. So I'm hopeful because what happened, so I teased at the intro, what happened last week, which didn't happen that often last year, was Nick won the upset pick. He picked the Chargers beating the Chiefs, which happened. And I missed on both of my picks. And so Nick takes week one being 1-0 with the upset pick. And again, for those of you who are new to the show, when we pick upset picks, it's against the money line. So we're not saying the team will cover. We're saying this underdog will win outright. And my co-host got it right with the Chargers beating the Chiefs last week. And so he has the honors this week. And his first pick is Kansas City beating the Eagles at home.
In all
Uh,
honesty, I was wrong in my second upset picks, which was the Dolphins winning in Indianapolis, but we're not going to talk more about that one.
well, again, we're picking underdogs. So it's not like surprising if we lose, but the Dolphins, those fins, they don't need fins up. They need like a EKG up for the fins. They're dead. I think they're dead. We'll see. All right. Speaking of the fins, that is going to be my upset pick. My first one. I will take the Patriots traveling down to Miami. Right now, at the time of this recording, Dolphins are favored by 1.5. I don't know how the heck that could be the case. I know the Patriots didn't look great about to the Vegas Raiders, but we both thought Vegas Raiders were going to be improved on their Pete Carroll. They showed it. I'm not jumping off the New England bandwagon just because they went against a well coached and talented team with the Vegas Raiders. I think they go down there and put a shellacking on the Dolphins. In fact, I think Mike McDaniel will be the first head coach fired this year. I don't even think he'll finish out the year. So I'll go on record on that one. But any thoughts about that game before I go to my next upset pick?
No, yeah, I agree with you, but I think it's gonna be closer than we think. Again, the overreaction of a week one is usually wrong. I expect Miami to play way better, to run the ball with that chain a lot more, and defensively, I mean, it's hard to play worse than that. I think they have the worst safety team in the NFL. So may have a great game if he can throw a long ball to Dix, but we'll see. It's a lot of if. I don't think that they are ready yet. The Patriots to be a sure thing. So we'll see. But yeah, starting 0-2 would not be a good look. So I do believe that they're gonna go there and win.
I'm already saying be on the Tyreek Hill watch. He's going to want to trade. What can they get for him? I would
Not
not
much.
looking good in South Florida. Not looking
No.
good. No. All right, my next upset pick is there's always these surprise teams who start off 2-0 and the media starts talking about them and like, "Hey, they're better than what we thought." And, "Hey, could they make this run?" And this is a team that I laughed about who they named as their captain. And again, they played against the Dolphins, but they took care of business. But I'm picking the Colts at home to beat the Broncos. Broncos are favored by 2.5. I thought the Broncos, I expected their offense to look better. And Cam Ward, granted, first ever NFL game, had flashes, but he's not a mobile quarterback. Good old Danny Dimes with the Colts playing at home. He can run all over the place because he's not going to be able to throw the ball a lot because Denver pass rush is really strong and their secondary is great. But I can see Danny scrambling, getting some yards, making some plays. So I'm going to pick the Colts over the Broncos at home.
Well, brother, I'm very consistent and I love consistency. So I cannot go your way. Again, overreaction of week one. I think I think Denver will play way better than they did week one, and Indiana will play what we expected them, how we expected them to play at the beginning of the season. And it's going to be the truth for my second upset pick as well. Consistency. Overreaction the week one. So I would pick Denver to win big in Indianapolis, actually. I really think that they're going to, because Indianapolis, you could feel the day after. I was watching the show with Pat McAfee, and he had Jones on TV sets, like everybody are so motivated. We may have a way better year than we thought, and blah blah. So their level of excitement and they believe, which is great. And then they play against Denver. I expect an early pick from Certain, and then that's gonna be rollover, and then Indianapolis will be back like the old way Colts. That's the way I see it, brother. But I hope I'm wrong for you.
The ghost of Jim Irsay is going to push a field goal wide right for Denver, and the Colts win a squeaker.
Hey, I hope for you.
All right,
And
what's your final one? Bring us home, brother. What's your last upset pick?
same consistency. I have the Seahawks winning at the Steelers. The Steelers won a game they should have 100% lose, and the Seahawks lost that game against the 49ers. I think the Seahawks go play way better at the Steelers, and the Steelers will lose the game that they should have lost last weekend at the Jets. And I pick the Seahawks with my quarterback to win the game at Pittsburgh Nation.
I actually, that was my third upset pick. So if we went three deep, I would have had the Seahawks over the Steelers. So I think you made a good pick there. We shall see. And can Nick go back to back in winning the upset picks in back to back weeks? We shall see, winners. But there you have it, the college football and NFL football breakdown. Looking forward to another great set of games, and maybe we'll throw in a little MLB because we're heading towards the stretch in next week, but you'll have to tune in to find out. So please be sure to share, subscribe, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform, and please check out today's sponsor, Hard Rock Bet, if you don't have a Hard Rock Bet account. Any last closing thoughts, my friend?
No, sport is back.
Sport is back. Hallelujah. All right, winners, that'll do it for this Fanatic Friday. We'll see you next week.
Bye, winners.